Welcome back to Candid Talks About Sex for Saints, where we get candid about love, sex, wellness, and relationships. Just so you know, I am Tammy, a wife, a mother, best-selling author, your favorite intimacy and relationship coach, the host of this fantabulous podcast where we're going to promote sex, but still keep it God. And I got a question for you. Have you ever wished that someone taught you more about sex from a faith-filled perspective? Or felt like you had questions that no one could answer? Or if you knew then what you know now, you might have made decisions a little different. Well, let me tell you, this podcast is dedicated to just that. We're going to fill in the gaps. We're going to break some silence and help you grow in godly intimacy without shame. And on today's episode, we're going to be quick. It's going to be short and it's going to be sweet. But we are talking about, am I too holy to be made love to? Y'all, listen, it might sound crazy to even say, this title might sound wild, but let me tell you, the truth is that somewhere along the way, you might have presented yourself in such a holy, untouchable way that it might have made things difficult for your spouse. Maybe he began to see you more as a spiritual being and less as a sensual one. And not because he stopped loving you, but because you unknowingly trained him to disconnect from your body by only emphasizing your spirit. But listen, we're going to change that today. We are going to change that today because as long as you are human, you are sexual, and you get to, it's not even you have to, you get to do all of the things and be all of the things in your marriage. You don't have to choose between whether or not you're going to be sacred or whether or not you're going to be sexy. You get to do both. You get to do both. And I know I'm reiterating to emphasize because I need you to understand that concept, because you are not too holy to be desired. You are not too spiritual to be seduced by your husband. You are definitely not too sacred to be satisfied. Maybe you're thinking like that because maybe you've grown up in a church that taught you how to pray, but they didn't teach you how to be pursued. Or maybe you were taught to present your body as a living sacrifice, but not how to receive love without shame. Or maybe you were taught how to be set apart, but never shown what to do when your husband wants to touch the parts that are set apart. And maybe without even realizing it, your holiness became a shield, not a shield of faith, but a shield of disconnection. Y'all, that's a problem because maybe you've stopped initiating, or maybe you felt awkward undressing, or maybe you prayed about everything else except for what you wanted in the bedroom. And when your husband wanted to try something new, maybe it felt perverted instead of playful. But let me tell you something, that is not purity. That is called disembodiment. And you are not just spirit. You are flesh and soul. You are what God has created. Because when he made you, he called you good, not just in your mind, not just in your gifts and your talents, but also in your body too. So listen, every time I think about this, I'm always thinking, what might make you feel too spiritual for intimacy? What might make you feel like that? I want to call out some things that might have you set in the mindset that you're too holy to be touched. The first thing might be, you might associate sex with sin. Listen, so many people get married. And when they get married, they're supposed to be like this switch that just says, I'm married, I'm here, I've arrived. It's time to now swing from all these little chandeliers that they talk about. But that's not what typically happens. Because even though you are married, your body still might react to shame because sex was only talked about in the context of don't do this and don't do that. So that switch does not just automatically turn on when you get married. There's a transition that has to happen in your mind to allow your body to know that this thing that I'm doing with my spouse is okay. And maybe you were not taught that. Maybe you clung on to all of the wrong messages of the purity culture about what not to do and the guilt and the shame and all of the things. But let me tell you, there's a process to be able to reconnect in a way that you haven't before. And maybe you haven't gotten to that point yet. And maybe you haven't gotten there because you're not talking to God about sex. You might pray about your children, your finances, about your calling and what to do. But when was the last time you have prayed for your pleasure. When was the last time that you prayed for pleasure? You have to be able to pray about your sex life in the same thing, in the same way that you tear the walls down. I listened to a clip the other day where this lady was doing a video and she was like, some of y'all need to pray for your sex life. And she is absolutely right. You pray before you make love to your spouse. You can, it's an option. I'm telling you, you are inviting God into your experience, and it's going to make it all the more. It is going to make it 10 times better. I promise you. It will make it 10 times better when you realize how much God plays a role when it comes to your intimate life, and not in no creepy kind of way, but in a way that makes you desire your spouse more. I always like to compare it to like a praise and worship. When you are in a church and the worship is the bomb, like you're listening to that praise and worship person and they are singing their heart out and you are in it. You are in it. You are worshiping. Your hands are up. You're in a zone. You're not thinking about how good that person sounds. You're connecting with God and saying, God, man, I'm connecting to whatever this lyric is making me feel. It's the same when you are in intimacy with your spouse. You are connecting to your spouse in a way that allows you to go deeper into worship, and you are giving reverence to God because of it. You're saying, God, man, you are so good for allowing this experience because this feels so good. I'm telling you, it just elevates your love life even that more when you invite and add God to your experience. I mean, he's already there, but now you are just acknowledging the worship. You're acknowledging the presence, and that changes everything, y'all. That changes everything. Maybe there might be situations where you think that desire equals weakness. There are some people who actually think like that. They think that if they desire something that they're not supposed to, they might have convinced themselves that if they might have convinced themselves that being spiritual means being emotionally neutral. And so when it's time to be aroused, or when they feel aroused or curious or even playful, they might think, am I being too carnal? No, sis. You are being married. You are being married. There is nothing wrong with being aroused. When you are aroused, guess what? You get to grab your babe and be like, babe, come on, right here, 5 minutes. It might not even take all that sometimes. But the point is that he gets to, you get to enjoy that within your marriage. But sometimes people don't do it because they might assume that their husband only sees them as the mother, as the intercessor, or as the ministry prayer partner. And if you have stopped seeing yourself as a lover, maybe you might think he will too. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. But let me tell you, there are steps that you can take so that you don't have to feel that way. That is called a spiritual stronghold. It is time to step out of that, not by rejecting holiness, but by expanding it. I want you to expand holiness to pleasure, to include pleasure with your spouse, to include your spouse in that process. Because I want you to remember that God made pleasure. He designed it. He groomed it in you. Let me tell you, everybody always says that when God made Eve, he made her with a clitoris. Your body has a clitoris. Now, the clitoris, the only purpose that it serves is for pleasure. That is the only purpose. And God created that. That is your access to orgasms. You are able to have orgasms because God created the clitoris that allows you to feel pleasure. These are all sequence things that God created. So why be ashamed of something that he designed specifically for you to enjoy? I need you to remember that. Ecclesiastes 9:9 says, enjoy life with your wife whom you love. God ordained enjoyment. He's not surprised by your body's response. Pleasure was never the enemy. It was always sin. Remember that. It was always sin. I think that it's time that you reclaim your sensual identity. The way that you would do this is just by starting small. This is where you can light a candle or touch your own skin with love, and not just for sex, but for reconnection, because many of you have already disconnected and it's time to reconnect with yourself. Be more in tune with yourself again. Read Songs of Solomon like it was written for you. Listen, game changer. I am giving y'all all the free game right now. Okay. I want you to understand that wearing perfume that reminds you that you're a woman changes things. This is why I sell pheromone oils, because they allow you to be in touch. They allow you to be reminded that I am a woman. I'm not just a wife. I'm not just a mother. I am a woman and I deserve to be loved. I deserve to feel loved. I deserve to smell good. So there is something about scents that just triggers something in your brain that makes you feel desire. I want you to get that. And as you go through this process, speak to your husband. Let him know what's going on. Invite him into your freedom. Invite him into that space. You might say something like, babe, I've realized that I've been spiritually present, but I haven't been physically and emotionally present. I've been unavailable and I wanna change that. Change it for you and for him. I want you to enjoy love without guilt. Invite your spouse into your experiences so that he can share in the love and be a part of your growth. Also, what's important is redefining what holy means. What does holy really mean? Holy doesn't mean ashamed of or stiff or distant. It means to be set apart. It means to experience deep love. It is set apart for covenant love. It is set apart for covenant level pleasure. It is set apart for intimacy that honors God because it honors your union. That's powerful. I want you to remember that there are times when you should be playful with your spouse. Be playful again. There is nothing more exciting when you and your spouse can flirt and initiate with each other and send spicy text messages and pictures. And it's not about waiting to be in the mood. It's about creating those moods. It's about not being afraid to create the space, because this is where you become vulnerable, right? This is where you be fully transparent with your spouse so that you can create atmospheres. Let me tell you how you can shift an atmosphere just by a simple word, just by a simple text, just by starting from the beginning. Let me tell you, there is something so powerful about that. I want you to be able to shift how he sees you by changing how you show up, because that's ultimately what this is about. You might feel like your husband only sees you as the prayer partner, like we discussed, or the mom, or the prayer warrior, like we discussed. But let me tell you, the truth is that if you never give him the opportunity to see you in a different light, he won't. If you continue to be you in this current state, he's going to forever see you as the spiritual being that you have trained. If you are always carrying yourself like you are too holy to be touched, he might start treating you that way. And that's not what you want. But because he's trying to honor what you projected, because you have trained him that way. Listen, there might be times when he wants you, but he feels like he's violating something sacred. Mm. Not because he's wrong, but because you unintentionally set up the parameters and told him that intimacy was off limits or uncomfortable or unspiritual. But I want you to start changing the atmosphere. Reintroduce him to you. Ask him, what do you remember most about when we first fell in love? What do you admire about my body? What is your favorite thing about me? Ask questions. Show him a new side and really listen. Let the memories breathe life into who you are today, and then show him that side. And I don't mean lingerie, but yes, please wear the lingerie. But I mean the energy and the curiosity and the playfulness, because when you do that, that is how you shift. I want you to take this and use your voice. And I mean your voice. And I mean, have moments, set a time, schedule a time where you and your spouse can connect and have a moment of, you could do like a dirty talk session. And it doesn't mean that you have to be vulgar, but just try whispering. I love it when you touch me there. Or you could say something like, I've been thinking about you all day. Or you have no idea where I want you to touch me tonight. You got to say these things. You got to send voice notes and allow your voice to speak for you. And let them hear the desire. You could say, I know I've been distant before, but I want you to know what you're missing in every way. Let me tell you, these are game changers. I am spitting the game for you. And it might sound awkward or feel awkward, but let me tell you, they will appreciate it. They will appreciate the effort. It's giving them an opportunity to see you in a different light. You can also use affirmations that invite him in. Say things like, I feel safe when you touch me. I love being wanted by you. This body is for you. When you say things like that, it invites them into your process. And it makes them feel good. It makes them feel wanted. It makes them feel desired. And the last thing I want you to understand is that when you pray together, you can play together. I know I said it before, but start a ritual. Start a prayer session with your spouse and end it in something passionate. There's no contradiction. I want you to understand that these things can coexist. God's presence and your pleasure can coexist beautifully. God is not intimidated by your pleasure. He created it. He called it good. You are not too holy to be made love to. You are holy enough to be fully loved in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, in your soul. And so I want you to let this episode be your permission slip to come back to yourself, because you can be godly and sexy. You can love Jesus and still want to be touched. And you can be fire in the altar and fire in your bedroom. And so if this message has stirred you up, I want to hear about it. Screenshot this episode, tag me at the Marriage Lab LLC, and share a quote that hit you the hardest. I'm not just in this to save marriage. I'm in this because I want women to be free around their marriages.
So thank you again, y'all, for tuning in. Y'all, give me some grace. I know today looks a little different because I am traveling, but I wanted to make sure that I am showing up for you anyway, in spite of. So I hope this episode gave you some meat. I hope you got some substance in this episode. And until next time, bye.